recently. Look how tiny they are, right? The soil's nice and warm here, but there's another beet. Look at that one. Just barely starting, right? So if your beets look like this, take heart. In a month or so, they'll look like that. I thought I'd call this video something like advice for the new gardener, take heart sort of thing, because I know there's a lot of people out there this year gardening for the first time, or maybe trying it for the second time after an epic fail 3 or 4 or 5 years ago or whatever. Or if you're a new homeowner and you're, basically for whatever reason, COVID-19 seems to have brought out a desire in many people to put in a garden, and they planted their seeds with all this optimism, and then and now they're waiting for the results. And they're saying, why isn't it happening for me? And a big part of gardening is patience. Patience and knowledge and reading. There's no amount of knowledge you can't. Trial and error is a good way to learn, and I've done talks about this before. Trial and error is a good way to learn, but you can't beat picking up a book written by an experienced gardener and getting into that. I know people want to watch YouTube videos, and they can be helpful. But things tend to be boiled down to like 5 and 10 minute clips, and a lot of YouTube gardening videos are kind of like fantasy worlds where everything just works out great. And a lot of gardening is perseverance and patience. But anyway, I wanted to show you, in terms of the things I direct seeded right in the ground with I use a lot of microclimates in my garden. I put plastic over things, I put windows over things, I put little plastic domes over things just to get things a little bit warmer. But I wanted to show you some of the stuff I just direct seeded and left exposed to the elements, just so you can get a sense of how far along those are. You can compare notes with where your things are. Just so you can see that, okay, I'm an experienced gardener, but if you're working with the same conditions, this is what you should expect if you're kind of dealing with similar climate conditions in mind. Bearing in mind that it's not, where I live, it's not an exceptionally sunny place. It's often overcast, like today. The sun's up, but I can stare right at it because there's so much fog and cloud cover right now. So there's light, but we're not getting sunny, shiny light right now. But anyway, let's have a look. Where's this a good place to start? This is spinach that I planted 4 weeks ago, something like that, 3 weeks ago. And look how tiny it is. It's 2 inches high, right? It's not that big. I've got spinach in my garden. Look over here. This spinach was planted under a plastic dome, and we've been eating it in salads for weeks, right? That's because I created a microclimate here. I artificially warmed this up. This kale, which is like over a foot high, same thing. If I direct seeded it, wouldn't be anywhere near as far along. Here, I'll show you some kale that was direct seeded. This kale here, I had a kale plant growing here last year and it went to seed, and the seeds just fell on the ground. So in a sense, these were direct seeded. But these ones just came up wild, and they're only about 6 inches high by contrast, right? They're not planted properly, and they need to be thinned out, and I don't even want kale here, so I don't know what I'm going to do with these. But my point is that, look how tiny that is, right? Look how small, right? That's what you'd be working with if you just stuck the seed in the soil and left it, didn't have a microclimate affected. Over here I got beets, and these are beets that I planted around the end of March, early April, under a plastic dome, under one of these domes, right? And you can see how big the foliage is, right? Now, some of them, for whatever reason, got taken out by pests, or I don't know what exactly, so I had to replant. So these were sown maybe 3 weeks ago, and without the benefit of the dome. So see how much further back they are, right? A lot smaller, right? So if your beets look like this, and you're looking at mine thinking, what did I do wrong? Well, you didn't do nothing wrong. This is what beets would look like if they weren't, in a little sort of temporary greenhouse. Look at these ones. These were planted even more recently. Look how tiny they are, right? The soil's nice and warm here, but there's another beet. Look at that one. Just barely starting. Right? So if your beets look like this, take heart. In a month or so, they'll look like that. Now, here's some parsnips that I planted, I don't know, maybe 1st of April. And I had a kind of microclimate affected over them, not much of one, not a dome like this, but just kind of like plastic rectangles. So I basically created a 2-inch airspace above them, a little bit of a microclimate. And you can see they got a bit of size, right? So these are maybe, 5 inches high. Now over here I got parsnips that I had a dome over them for they were planted later, and I had a dome over them for only part of that time, and they're smaller, right? And the very edges where I planted parsley, which should grow at about the same rate as a parsnip, but this area was sort of exposed to the elements. Look how tiny. So I mean, the parsley was sown the same time as the parsnip, and in terms of vigor, both plants are kind of similar kind of thing, right? But these were not nearly as well insulated to the cold as the parsnips, and you can see the difference. I mean, they're tiny, right? They look like they just started growing, which they did. You know, it took forever for these to germinate. I thought maybe something had gone wrong, but you know, parsnips, one of those plants, you can throw the seeds on the ground in October, and they'll just sit there all winter and start growing the following year. Same with parsnip for that rate. Parsnip and parsley, you can sow them in the fall, and the seed will just hang out in the soil and grow later. There's some dill right. And there's another one, dill, just wild dill. The seeds can just be, you know, broadcast in the fall and they'll come up. Over here I got, I had a bit of a disaster with this garden, but anyway, it serves a purpose. Here's a cauliflower planted underneath a microclimate, good size. And here's one I sowed a couple weeks ago, right? Pretty big difference, right? Here's a good contrast here. So here's some, zucchini, and you know, they're growing. They got some size. And these were planted a couple weeks ago. This one was sown last week, I think. Now if we look under this dome, right? Look at the difference in size, right? And you can feel the heat coming out of here. It's not even a sunny day, really. It's overcast. But these are growing pretty good, right? Much further along because they got the benefit of the microclimate. So yeah, just a few examples of, you know, what happens when you just direct seed things and let nature take its course. It just takes a little bit longer for things to get going. So, you know, if you planted your seeds and things aren't happening the way that you'd fantasized about, you know, it could be that everything is a disaster and nothing's working. Possible. More likely you just need to be a little bit more patient and wait. You know, wait another week or so. If nothing happens, just replant. Right? I had a complete disaster with my carrots this year. Half my carrots just disappeared. Don't know why, but I just replanted them yesterday. Just be cool, relax, replant. That's all you can do. So anyway, I hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Don't forget to click the little bell if you want to know when I drop a new video. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.